Early doors. Early doors is the start of an alcoholic's day, basically. As soon as the pub opens, now you've got this chain of pubs, as you well know. They're open very early now, between 8 and 9 o'clock. And people go in there every day for what I would call a bit of a livener. In the winter, they go in there to keep warm as well, basically. So I'll take you back a few years when I was coming out of the Met. I was living in a small place in Soho. And everyone thinks, oh, that's a good place to live. You know, got all the bright lights, all the glamour of London. It's not when you're an alcoholic. It's not at all. And early doors for me was to wake up. Something's not even normal. It was 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. Anyways, the reason I could tell was when I went outside and it was light, or I could go into a shop and make sure they were open. Or in the end, I lost all track of time with dates and that sort of thing. I used to go to a newsagent, have a look at the newspaper, see what the day was. What's all that about? Living alone, pretty desperate. But early doors, yeah, I remember many times going to a pub at 11 o'clock. I don't know if you've ever been to pubs early on, but it just smells dreadful of cleaning materials. The bar staff can't be bothered with you because it's 11 o'clock in the morning. It's not normal for people to go to a pub at 11 o'clock in the morning. So you'd sit in there, wait for the barman to eventually come round and order a pint of lager. Now, my mission was to try and get some of the lager down me as quick as possible, because I always used to feel grubby, feel tired, feel anxious, and I always had the shakes. Right hand dominant, and a friend of mine who was also an alcoholic, was a senior manager in a big company actually, funny enough. He used to say, if you're right hand, use your left hand to pick the glass up. But by this time I was so far into alcoholism that I couldn't even use my left hand. So I used to try and use both hands to pick up the glass very slowly. Sometimes I couldn't even do that. I had to put my head into the glass. The barman didn't take any notice because he knew me. It was a local pub in Soho. Anyway, from then I'd try and have maybe half a pint or so, and I'd try and get from the bar to somewhere to sit. And I remember this day, it was a Saturday morning, there was nobody about apart from myself and the pub staff. So I managed to get this pint over to the table. And I remember it was very, very cold day, and the pint was cold. I should have had a cup of coffee, really. That's what I should have been drinking, but I wasn't. I'm an alcoholic, so I couldn't have a cup of coffee. So I took a longer drink. I thought, I've got to get this pint down me. I was so desperate to have this drink that I drank a few gulps of it, and I was immediately sick all over the table. You know, it was so embarrassing. My clothes were covered in sick, and it was just clear liquid, a bit of yellow in there from bile and all that sort of thing. I thought, how have I gone from having a successful career in London to living like this in a matter of years? It was a roller coaster. It was just a sort of fast cycle down, if that makes sense. It's amazing how quickly it can go downhill. So I'd get one or two drinks down me, and then I'd maybe get myself to another pub. But even walking a short distance was hard. I hadn't had any food. I used to feel weak. And the crowd just started to come into London. You think, God, I can't deal with these things now. I can't even go to a shop without shaking. I used to go to an off-licence. I used to try and go to different shops in case I got recognised. You're constantly playing a hiding game, really, you know, hide and seek, I suppose. You don't want to go in the same shop. It's embarrassing that the shopkeepers don't care, as long as you're giving them business. They don't care who you are, really, but you get paranoid with alcohol, and that becomes your whole focus. So what I mean by early doors, by about 1 o'clock, I had about 5 or 6 pints by then. Because once you got the first one down, it was easier to stomach the rest, if that makes sense. So I'd go somewhere else, a pub I knew, it was just off Carnaby Street. It was run by a Geordie lad. So I used to have a bit of affiliation with him, because obviously I'm from Newcastle originally. Now, he used to give me the odd pint free, to be honest. We used to sit and drink these pills together, because he was an alcoholic as well. Pub game tends to attract, obviously, heavy drinkers. But if they're not heavy drinkers when they start, they certainly will be later. So I'd drink a little bit more with him, and then by early afternoon I'd feel a bit more into life. I'd try and get something to eat, maybe a bit of Chinese food or something, or grab a hamburger. And I'd go back to this particular pub. It was called the Red Lion, actually, in Kingley Street, which is next to Carnaby Street, and have a few more. I would sit there most of the day, pop back to this little dingy flat I had, and then try and get a bit of a wash and come out again. So all day I was drinking, from early doors to late night. And I'd do the same thing every day. Just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Now, when I came back to the northeast, I was living alone, and there was a pub that opened early, and I used to go along there about 9ish sometimes. This is before I got really ill. And when people say to me, oh, when you go out to drink, is life not boring? What's more boring than being in a pub at 9 a.m. all day with the same people? Now, I still pop in now and again. Sometimes I go for breakfast or a coffee. And the same people are in there. They're looking disheveled. They're looking much, much older than they should, really. A lot of them got health problems, and they're there from 9 o'clock, boozing all day. I don't know how they afford it, to be honest. Now, they're really waiting outside the pub at 8:30, 9 o'clock to get in. That's no life, is it? That's pretty boring, isn't it? So people say, oh, I don't want to go out to drinks, I'll be bored. It won't be any fun anymore. What's fun about sitting in a pub 7 days a week from 9 o'clock in the morning? With no hope, no money, no future. Your health's deteriorating. I call it slow suicide. And I've spoken to these people, and none of it will change, will not change. I mean, a mission to try and turn the northeast around a little bit to the non-drinking culture is impossible, isn't it? Virtually, when you think about it. Because it's a massive culture in the northeast. It's a massive culture in the UK, but particularly in the northeast, because it's pretty much all there is, really. Pubs and football, that's it, isn't it? So my point being that you start early in the morning drinking, but it just makes your day longer, doesn't it? So you consume more alcohol, your health becomes worse, and you feel rough. And every day you're thinking, God, I wish I could feel a little bit better. And eventually you'd get to bed, or you'd collapse on the bed, or you sleep in your clothes and you think, oh, I'll get well, or something's going to happen. Nothing's going to change, is it, in your life, if you're constantly doing the same thing. Because nothing will change unless you change something. And what you've got to change, if you're in this rut, it's a deep rut, it's a very, 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 very deep rut, you've got to try and claw your way out of it. And the best way to do that is to focus on how well you're going to feel when you get sober. And even just cutting down, I was speaking to somebody the other day, if you're really dependent on it and you need to get medical help, or you need at least to start tapering off it, because you can't just stop. If you stop like I did, then you'll have a seizure. Now, I first stopped about 20 years ago, and I just stopped. Didn't have a drink. I felt terrible all morning. Then I had a seizure about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was really serious apparently. Now, nobody had ever told, I didn't even know that. Only 20 years ago. This information is more widely available now. Nobody said to me, if you stop, you may die. I mean, people always assume, oh, you can just stop. Stop doing that, stop doing this. It's not that easy. It's the power of addiction is very, very strong. And people will assume, oh, he's just an alcoholic, he's a drunk. That's what my parents used to think. I mean, my mother's a bit more educated on that now. But my father died sadly 3 years ago. But even in the end, he didn't understand what my drinking was all about. He used to just say I was a drunk, which is not really, he's right in a way, and it probably was self-inflicted initially. But if it becomes a habit, then you've really got to look at yourself and try and think, well, can I cut this habit out before I get to the point of seizures, dangerous drinking? Even if you're just socially drinking, just cut down by 1 or 2. Because if you're younger than me, you're still working, you've got a family, a future, as in a career future, then you'll feel better. You'll be more motivated, have more energy. If you're looking for that promotion or that shift aside across in your career to do something different, or to move abroad or whatever, then keep yourself healthy. Keep yourself one step ahead. You'll be ahead of the game. If you can stop drinking, of all the people that are drinking, even 1 or 2 drinks a day will slow people down. If you can stop drinking when you're in the work environment, you'll fly, no matter what job you're in, because people recognize that. Because you'll be different to, the normal society, who will always have a drink, especially weekends. If you can go into an office fresh on a Monday, you only get the best jobs in the end. You'd be recognised by the bosses. A lot of senior people in all walks of life have had alcohol issues and they've got over them. And most of them don't drink now. It's glamorised on TV, isn't it? All these high flyers with the wine and cocktails and whatnot. But in reality, a lot of these people are fit. They go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're up and about. The early bird catches the worm, that sort of thing, isn't it? So be mindful of that. If you need any advice, please get in touch with me. I'm not a medic, but I've got a lot of experience with alcohol and the issues. And if you enjoy the channel or you benefit from it, please subscribe it and share it to anybody else who's struggling. There are thousands of us struggling out there. Every day is a struggle when you're an alcoholic, even when you're sober. It's still on your mind, isn't it? You walk past the pub and go, wouldn't it be nice to just have one? But if you have one, you'll take you back to square one again, like I've said 1,000 times. I'll let you get on with your day. Have a great time. And if you've got any comments, drop me a line.